Oh, hello. Good morning.
Oh, good afternoon, my dear brother. I'm in the afternoon here.
Oh,
How are
fine,
you?
thank you, sir. How are you?
Excellent. Very, very well. Thank you. Good to
Yeah, good
see
to see
you.
you, sir. How's everything going?
Yeah, it's been well. It's just the weather is currently getting funny,
Oh,
but we can cope with it.
yeah, right. We have no option. Do have to cope with it.
No,
Yeah,
we have to cope, especially when you've sat in it for over 30 years. Why
yeah,
not?
right. At this point, you're used to it.
Yeah. So how about your
Oh,
end?
we're good. I'm in Florida, so for us, I think
Mm.
below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, we call it cold. So,
Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, well, that is why a lot of people love Florida and
yes, sir.
all the surrounding suburbs.
Yes, sir. It's
Mm. How about the COVID?
COVID. It was very bad over here.
Mm.
Some people still don't believe in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you know,
that is the world
yes,
because we are all coming from with different backgrounds and
yes.
also. Oh, Ian is there wearing some face mask.
But yeah,
What about that?
how you doing, brother? Ian?
Oh, Ian.
Looks like he's at the funeral again.
Ian is wearing a face mask.
Yeah, look, it might be at the funeral. I see the behind him.
Yeah. Yeah, he is he at the Ian, are you at the funeral? Yen.
Oh,
Oh dear.
yeah. Looks like he's
Yeah, I've seen he's under a shade. I don't know. I hope he's not in the funeral.
okay. Well, yeah, he's back, but he's muted, so we can't hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yen, unmute yourself, please.
Oh, there
Uh-huh.
he is.
Good. Are
Yeah,
you
I
are you
have. Yeah,
are you at the funeral? Then why are you wearing mask?
I am at the I am at a miners meeting.
Okay.
You know I am in Talisi, your
Oh,
friend
okay.
Tongorana's village,
Okay.
and then the Tindanas, the landlords, those who are the proper owners of the land,
Mm-hmm.
are meeting to discuss the effects of mining on their communities.
Oh, okay.
So it was supposed to start at 10. It's just now starting. Can you
Well,
imagine? I thought I could come,
well,
finish that meeting,
yeah.
Ghana for you, finish that meeting and rush back to have this meeting. And now that you can see the crowd. Can you see
Yeah.
people there?
No, I can't see. We
Can
are
you see
only
people seated?
We see right behind you.
No,
we
I
can't see
just,
the people. It's
See the tree.
just a tree behind.
oh,
Oh,
you can
yes.
see.
Oh,
Okay,
we
now
can
we
see
see.
now. We can see now.
Yeah.
And your connection is so poor. Yeah, Yen is going to be in trouble
You see
today.
people.
Yeah, we
So
can see the people behind you.
Yeah.
you can see the people, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm there. So when it's time,
Mm,
if depending upon the time, so I'm multitasking,
okay.
doing two things at the same time. So
Well,
because the miners meeting is extremely important for us, so
I know.
we
I
can
know.
advise them.
Yeah,
You see people talking there,
yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly in
yeah,
that area. In that
and
area.
you know the problems of your
Yeah,
friend
yeah,
in
yeah,
that with the Tongorana wanting to confiscate and take all the
yeah,
resources from the people.
yeah.
And then if they invite us to come and advise them, it's important that we come.
I agree with
So
you.
so
I
yeah.
personally agree
So
with
I'll
you.
be meeting most of the time. If it is
Okay.
time for me to make my contribution, but I'll be on whilst
Okay.
so I'm multitasking, 2 meetings. Yeah.
Well,
But let me ask you, brother. Yeah. Why
you're
did
not
this
So
too
start
you
so?
understand?
you're not too old to do that. You're just about some 35 years, so get on with it.
Yeah.
Why did this start so late? It was supposed
But
Okay.
to start
you
at
know
10.
Ghana already. You know Ghana already.
Yeah,
But
but this.
I don't
Yeah.
know. You know, these people, they say 10 o'clock.
no. It doesn't work like
It's
that.
now that they are now praying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
It
are
doesn't work.
praying.
Here doesn't work like that. Yeah.
They're
I
praying.
thought they would start at least latest 11.
Yeah, no.
They are praying. You can hear them praying. You can see.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Ghana, the only thing they do on
So
time is,
the Tindana, the main reason why,
is funerals. Funerals.
yeah, want to share money, they'll be there. But the reason why I'm there because of the Tindanas, they're the landlords and they are very
Yeah.
key people.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be able to get them along
Yeah.
in order to fight the Tongo chief who is destroying the community. Your friend.
I'm
Your
not
friend,
surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Your friend who wouldn't even campaign for you. So
yeah, no, I know.
I'm in his village. You can see the school.
Yeah.
You see. So this is the area.
Well.
Okay, so I'll meet you most of the time.
Okay. Well, I wish you well there. I wish you well, and make sure that you protect yourself and keep safe, please. Brother Sam Mensah.
Hello, Dr. Mensah.
Brother Sam Mensah is around.
Yes, I think he's one of our presenters. Hello, Dr. Mensah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. You're having some tea?
Yes, so afternoon tea.
Why not? That keeps the blood flowing.
Do you have a presentation or are you just going to be speaking, Dr. Mensah?
I have a presentation.
Okay. Do you see that share screen option? Yeah. Okay, you have it. Okay, great. All right. I just want to be sure you have that. So when it comes time.
When I click it, it says, let me try again. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me fix that. They've changed the settings. We used to be able to just go to meeting settings and do that. Just a second here. Okay, I'm going to make you co-host and then just see if that makes it
better.
That provides it.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that provide you with a share screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Because I mean, it looks like they've changed the settings on this because it used to be just go through and select meeting settings, but somehow that's not available anymore there. So you're good now, right, Dr. Mensah? You're able to share it. Share your
yes,
screen.
I can just test it out now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, great. All right. Okay. Do you want to stop share so till after we go through the introductions and everything, if you don't mind? Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
You people should be chatting.
Good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, good morning, Australia. Who is this here? Hello?
Good morning, Brother Quincy.
Yeah, okay. I'm having some issues signing in this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's from I got a new phone.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if everything had transferred. So they put me through the whole process again.
Oh, you probably had to download the app. I thought maybe you're going to say you had your coffee yet. That's why. But I see you drinking your coffee.
My coffee is cold. Because,
Oh, coffee.
yeah.
Hello, Brother Eugene. How are you?
Actually quite hot in Ghana right now.
Yeah, I can
So this is just to
I can
pump
see
in
your fan working, but you're still sweating.
No,
That's what I was asking. Who is
I've got
sweating
the
and wiping?
air conditioner on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still sweating. I was actually outside, so doing some
Okay.
work outside. So I'm in a cooling down period.
Yeah.
Maybe you need 2 fans,
It'd be like airbags on top
Yeah.
of you, around you.
A lot faster.
Ghana is very hot now.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at everybody now. Kwame Oklu, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you too, my dear brother.
Yeah. So they said we start early today. So, you guys owe me 1 hour.
Oh, but I thought it's normally 2 o'clock here. So if it's 2 o'clock, the time
I
should
woke up at 5.
Oh dear me.
He's in California, so
Yeah. It's still dark
Some-
outside.
So some few people are connecting. Nicholas is connecting. So
yeah. And Brother Eugene is on here. Good morning, Brother Eugene.
yeah, he's muted.
Oh, okay. He's probably getting his coffee.
Oh no, Eugene
Exactly.
doesn't,
Good
Eugene
morning, brother.
Eugene doesn't take coffee. He doesn't take coffee.
That's true. Tea.
Uh-huh. He's an Englishman. He doesn't like coffee.
And then Dr. Tumpugre is here too. So good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon, good mornings,
Yes,
wherever
good
you
afternoon.
are.
Yes,
Good
sir.
afternoon, Nicholas. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm stepping out briefly and I'll join you in 10 minutes, yeah?
Okay.
Sure. We're waiting for the Phyllis.
Let me see what I can use to wedge my phone.
There's an Nanandu on here. Good morning, Nanandu.
Morning, Mr. Mesa.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'll be on for we have a break from our conference, so I'll be on for hopefully about 20 minutes just to try and catch a few tidbits.
Okay.
Can I suggest we start?
Well, I'm waiting
Once
for.
people join.
Let me try and see if I get in touch with the moderator. The moderator isn't on yet. Let me try and get in touch with him. Start. We have to start starting on time. So
Oh, the
give me just-
moderator is not here. Yeah, so we have to wait for her. Yeah.
yeah,
we have
let me
to.
try and get in touch with her. But I think we need to make an effort to start on time.
Yeah.
So give me a second.
So where are you at, Ian? You are in the forest, or is it that your backyard? I see some big old trees.
Yeah. Yeah. I am a place called Tongo. Tongo. There is a meeting of landlords of the area on the mining. There is some 3 or 4 companies mining gold here. So, and there is all these problems of people just coming in, taking the gold and going away. So there is a meeting of the Tindanes. Tindanes are the people who hold the land in trust of the people. They're always sometimes in conflict with the chiefs. So they're having a meeting to discuss the effects of mining. So I thought that I could combine both. So yeah, it's important that we also have connections with our people. So
Yeah, that's
you
a
can
good
see
idea.
them, you can
That's
see
a
the
good
crowd.
idea.
Have you seen?
And you what? Four
So
companies.
have
4
you seen
different
people
companies?
there?
Mm-hmm.
You can see the crowd. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a big crowd, but it's quality in the sense that they are the Tindanes, the landlords are there. So if you get the landlords, they will be able to fight for their rights.
And this is in the north. Wow.
Yes, that's in the north. Mhm.
I never knew there was gold in the north.
The whole place is full of gold.
Let me ask you this: did anybody have any issues logging in? Because Sister Phyllis said it told her she wasn't authorized.
No,
Okay, everybody was able to log in. Okay,
yeah,
let
with
me-
ease.
She's probably using another meeting. Let me try and get a hold. Let me call her and see.
She uses an old one. She probably won't get in.
Yeah,
She should use the information on the flyer. That's easier.
yeah. I mean, the link worked also. It looks like the link also worked, right?
Mm.
I mean,
Hello, everybody.
oh, hello. Yeah. Do you have Sister Phyllis's phone number? Can you please send it to me? I'm trying. She said she's having issues logging in.
Okay.
Is she not added to the think tank? So you can probably fetch it from there.
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Okay.
Just emailed her to call me, but I don't know if she's checking the email or not.
How about, is Brother Yan on?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, he's on, but he's at a meeting outdoor. So I mean, if we want to start with him, but we'll get a hold of Sister Phyllis.
I have Phyllis's number. It's the one.
Yeah, I'm on. I am on.
Okay.
Have we got Felix?
Well,
okay.
Maybe.
And the personality of these committees. Our youth leaders, our youth leadership group are widely awake in the market, and we are totally behind them to do what is noble and honorable for the development of the community. As part of our roles and responsibility.
All right, we just go ahead and start.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I think
let's
we're gonna do that. Let's go ahead and start. And maybe you can deal with it outside of the
So
meeting.
should we start?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're gonna start.
But Brother Ian, you need to mute because the meeting is in progress and it's interrupting this discussion, or it's going to. Yeah.
But he has to also open the meeting or something.
Okay. So he can do that and then mute.
After you've given the introduction.
Yeah. On behalf of Progressive Alliance for Ghana, I wish to welcome you to this session, this meeting. I don't think that there's many of you who do not know about PAG, so I wouldn't like to bore you and then go into what is PAG, but suffice it to say that we are an association, we're an alliance of progressive organizations that are key to make a difference to Ghana, to provide an alternative. We are quite progressive. We care passionately about our country, and we want to do what we can to ensure that we have a better Ghana for ourselves and for the future generation. We hope that you can support us in our work. It requires a lot of sacrifices with no obvious benefit. But if you choose the struggle, if you choose the fight for ordinary people, you go through all these problems. you go through all this. Pleasure is that when you achieve something, you are happy. It is rather unfortunate that in Ghana, what is happening, or in Africa, we are not seeing progressives moving. But in other parts, like in Latin America, we are beginning to see the roots. The Venezuelan people are still struggling. Mexico has a progressive government. Ecuador may have a progressive person leading the country. Bolivia, we've seen what happened. So let us all come together and ensure that we struggle for our country. Without much ado, I call on, I think Phyllis, is Phyllis now in, you know?
No.
Twice Dan. I think Dan will take over and then go through the rest of the program. Once more, you are all welcome. Happy New Year. Though we're in February, this is our first meeting. Happy New Year to you all, and wish you all the best. And as I was saying, I am at a miners meeting. I think it's very, for this struggle, we have to be people. So I'm at a miners meeting where the tenants are, where the landlords are, those who hold the land in trust of the people. The Upper East region is full of gold, and you have all these mining companies, about 4 of them in one district alone, in the Tansi district alone. So they invited us, and then so we are here to support them and then offer whatever little advice we can give. Once more, thank you very much. And let's Dan take over, and the ball is in your court.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the PAG Alliance. Progressive Alliance of Ghana. And we're going to talk about Ghana's economy and the effects on regular Ghanaians. You know, the economy is structured right now for, it seems, to work only for the rich, and the rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer, right? We have here 2 presenters. Unfortunately, because the moderator is not here, I don't have the introductory information. But our first presenter is going to be Dr. Sam Mensah, and then the next one will be Brother Bright Atu-Abeche. And what we'll do is we'll go through, have Dr. Mensah finish his presentation, and then Dr. Atu will do his as well, Dr. Abeche will do his, and then from there we'll open up the floor to a discussion. So I'll hand over to Dr. Sam Mensah right now. And Dr. Mensah, you have the floor. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this, or in the discussion of this all-important topic, and particularly the opportunity to meet some of you who are in the Progressive Alliance of Ghana. The topic I'm speaking on is a very broad topic: macroeconomic management, the role of external debt and foreign aid. It has always been a controversial issue, and it continues to be controversial. So the jury is still out on many of the issues that are being raised in this area. But I'm sure that in our, what I'm bringing to you is really more of a conversation starter. And I'm sure that in our discussions, we'll be able to pin down some progressive ideas to take forward. Let me just put my presentation on, if you can see the presentation. Okay, then I'll go to slideshow. Okay. Can everybody see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay.
I see micro. Yeah. Okay. Content.
Yeah. So let me just start by laying out a roadmap in terms of the ideas that I'm going to be putting across today. First, we'll talk about debt management, why public debt, and then why do we have external debt, and then the history and the observations on the public debt record of Ghana, where we stand now, and the implications for development. And then we will do a small presentation on foreign aid. Again, look at the rationale for foreign aid, and then try to answer some of the hard questions that have been raised about foreign aid. To what extent does foreign aid support growth? And is there any evidence that it does? And if it doesn't, what is the problem? Is it the problem? Is aid the problem, or how it is administered? And then some ideas on what the next steps might be. So we're talking about external debt and foreign aid. What do the two of them actually have in common? In the context of development, they're all meant to fill resource gaps. And for that matter, external aid in the form, foreign aid in the form of grants can be put in the same category as loans from donors on concessional terms. So when we put the two of them together, we can talk about aid being a composition of concessional loans from donors and also grants from donors. Now, historically, and by historically, I mean back in the 60s, when this whole business of aid was picking up, the idea was that it was supposed to fill a gap, a resource gap in development. Two main resource gaps. The first one being the gap between our own savings, the domestic savings, and the investment that is required. So typically in economics, we say that in the long run, savings has to equal investment. But if savings is not equal investment, then how do we plug the gap? So the idea was, development economists put forward the idea that let us organize aid, either concessional loans or grants, to plug the gap.
Okay, maybe he's getting ready to call. So this number, I should be calling.
I'm sorry, Tamesa, please go ahead. I muted him.
Okay, so that is one gap. The second gap that development specialists try to fill with aid in the form of external loans and grants was the gap between import requirements and export earnings. That if there's a gap between imports and exports, then somehow I think it makes sense that if you can get our donors to support us on, with grants and concessional loans, we'll be able to bridge the gap between aid, between our own resources and what is required for development. So this whole thesis then leads us to the idea that aid finance investment can put the economy into a self-sustained growth. If we give enough aid, we will be able to put the economy into a self-sustained growth. And that was a common understanding until, we got into the 70s and 80s, and a lot of questions which I will bring up were raised about this model. Why do we have public debt, of which external aid is a component? Public debt is usually the obligations of the central government, and every sovereign government borrows money to do a number of things. First of all, to tide over government deficits, sometimes for emergencies such as pandemics and war, or sometimes in a recession, borrowing is used to restart or jumpstart the economy. And then in development finance, borrowing is considered one of the means of financing of development projects in developing countries. Ghana borrows, of course, for all these purposes. And the public debt, as we see today, is just an accumulation of all the deficits financed by borrowing. So as the yearly deficit accumulates, it flows into the debt stock of the country. And some of the indicators of what we've done with our fiscal position and public debt is in this table. For the longest while, Ghana has always been accumulating deficits. I don't recall in recent memory that Ghana has ever had a budget surplus. So the trajectory of the public debt is always building up. Now, the primary balance is a very interesting concept. It says that what is the fiscal balance before debt service, before we pay interest and principal on the money that we have borrowed. And you can see that for some years, like 2015 and 2016, it's negative, which means that the surplus that we have, we don't really have a surplus to service our debt. So every year, the negative numbers means we have a net accumulation of debt. We are actually borrowing to pay interest. Okay. The positive numbers mean that at least some of our resources are going into debt service, but negative means that we are borrowing to service debt. And so our debt situation, looking at these numbers, the fiscal balance, and then the primary balance, is not surprising. We see that over the years, gross public debt as a percentage of GDP has been growing. And I'll show shortly that 2020 is even much worse than that. Here we go. Okay. The green line is total debt. And as at November 2020, our debt is about 74.4% of GDP, which is evenly divided between external and domestic debt. If you look at the early years, our situation was much worse than that. But by around about 2006, our debt stock fell to the lowest point. And that was because we had something called the HIPIC initiative, under which a lot of our bilateral donors wrote off their debt. And then later on, there was something called Multilateral Debt Relief Initiative, where our multilaterals, we're really talking about like the World Bank and IMF, also decided to write off debt. So we bottomed out in 2006, but you can see with the passage of time, we are slowly climbing up to where we got to in the early 2000s and got the relief. We are now, as at November of last year, our debt is now 74.4, and it's likely to go up because of the COVID crisis, the pandemic, and all the expenses that we have to incur. What are some of the observations that we can make from this history? Historically, most of our debt was external, but as I showed earlier, external debt is slowly being replaced by, it's not being replaced, but the bulk of our external debt is now coming from commercial sources like the banks, financial markets, Eurobond, and so forth. Government total debt reached 74.4% of GDP in November 2020, of which 49% is owed to private and commercial lenders. Multilateral creditors hold a significant part as the IMF and World Bank, but increasingly the Eurobond is taking over as a major source of external debt. Clearly, our debt is reaching unsustainable levels. 74.4% of GDP is at the top end of debt to GDP ratios among emerging markets. Now, here's a bit more alarming. Information is a bit more alarming. During the 11-month period from December 2019 and November 2020, that's roughly in the last 1 year, the total debt stock increased from 208 billion to 286.9 billion, an increase of 32% in the total debt stock. And that is just 11 months. In the 11-month period, we have increased our total debt stock by 32%, from 218 billion to 286 billion. A lot of this was driven by COVID-19 expenditures, and then also the financial crisis we had in Ghana, where government had to bail out a lot of financial institutions. But I will show shortly that it goes beyond just excessive spending. There's the factors that are driving the buildup of debt stock are quite complicated and many. It is just a diagram showing the composition of the external debt, that 49% of it is owed to commercial sources, and then 32% is to multilateral sources, World Bank, IMF. Bilateral, very small, 6%. So I guess the interesting point here is the extent to which we are now relying on commercial debt followed by multilateral debt. Multilateral debt is quite huge. The impact on how we manage our economy can be seen from this table here. In the 10-year period between 2010 and 2019, our interest obligations rose from 14.8% of our revenues to 35.9%. 14 or 15% of revenues. We're now using 36% of our revenues to pay for interest. And then if you break it down, in 2010, 11.6% of our revenues were servicing domestic debt. Today, 27.5% of revenue is servicing domestic debt. External debt, same story, from 3.3% of revenues to 8.4% of revenues. And so if you put it all together and look at the interest payments as a percentage of revenue, we have doubled or more than doubled, almost tripled the amount of our resources or revenues that are going into interest payments. The major consequence of that is that we are unable to undertake the investments that would drive the growth of the economy. And you can see on the last row, we have capital expenditures as a percentage of revenue. For us in 2010, 32.9% of capital expenditures were going, of our borrowings were going into capital expenditures. In 2019, only 11% of our expenditures went to capital expenditure. And capital expenditure is what you need for infrastructure such as roads, railways, water, sanitation, electricity, all the things that make an economy run, and what the things that increases or raises the living standards of people. So because of excessive debt accumulation, an increasingly smaller amount of our resources is going into capital expenditures. Now, external debt comes with additional challenges on top of the problems that we have with the magnitude of the domestic debt. The first problem is that external debt comes with exchange rate risk. So if we borrow in dollars, our debt stock grows in cedis as the cedi depreciates. And as we know, the cedi is on a depreciating trajectory over the years. So the external debt actually will grow in cedi terms, even if we didn't borrow anymore, just because the cedi continues to depreciate. And for that reason, many high borrowing countries, some countries like the UK, Japan, and the USA have debt to GDP ratios of over 100%, but they do nearly all their borrowing in domestic currency, so they don't have that problem. So we have the problem of having to borrow in external currency and servicing it from our cedi resources. So that's a challenge. For that reason, if we're able to substitute domestic borrowing for some of our external borrowing, it will reduce our exposure to foreign exchange risk. Now, concessional external debt is usually the debt that we receive from bilateral donors, bilateral meaning like USAID, the DFID, the NIDA, and the Germans, and so forth. And then the multilateral being the World Bank and IMF primarily. They are able to give us external debt, provided external debt resources for us. But then they all come with conditionalities, usually policy distorting conditionalities. Some of the examples of such conditionalities are that you are forced to limit government borrowing, you have to redirect public subsidies or minimize public subsidies, you have to privatize state enterprises, open up your markets to international trade. So the external aid coming in the form of external debt brings with it all kinds of conditionalities. Now, going beyond just the simple idea of public debt arising from spending, there are social and economic drivers that tend to raise our public debt. Of course, naturally, there are a lot of unfulfilled expectations in our society that create a lot of spending pressures for all governments. And therefore, the tendency is to spend more to meet rising expectations.
This is what, yeah. They are on, so that is the other one.
Okay.
Please mute yourself when you come in. The presentation is ongoing. All right, everybody, please mute yourself other than presenting. Okay, my apologies, Dr. Mensah. Please go ahead.
Okay, so we have the so-called revolution of rising expectations with unfulfilled expectations, creating spending pressures. But we also have a political governance system that induces indiscriminate borrowing for politically motivated projects. The competitive two-party system is one of the problems because every party has to find resources to be able to satisfy its constituents. And so a lot of the borrowing that we're doing may not necessarily be giving us the benefits, welfare benefits to our wider society, but might just be benefiting our political parties who need to stay in power. And so we've developed this reputation of borrowing going out of whack in every 4-year electoral cycle. The numbers are not finally out, but we will likely see that in 2020, and I think I've showed you some of the numbers already, borrowing almost went out of control. We don't have constraints on the way we finance our political machineries, and therefore governments in power tend to borrow for huge projects and then siphon some of those resources into their political campaigns. So what do we do to control government spending and borrowing? improved procurement and value for money. We need to improve our systems for selecting projects for which we are going to borrow funds, make sure we're getting value for money. We can actually bring down our expenditures and borrowing, or redirect expenditures to socially progressive activities by reducing political patronage, the opportunity for political leaders to use their positions to undertake projects that sustain the political system rather than benefit the people, the welfare of the people. Then there is laws can be put in place. Usually these are called fiscal responsibility laws that put limits on the deficit and limits on our debt ratios. We do have such laws on the books, but currently they have been suspended to deal with the crisis, the COVID crisis. So basically, these are some of the ideas that I want to share with you on public debt. It's a difficult area, but I think there are possibilities. We have to continue to search for possibilities of reducing how much borrowing we do so that the resources can be channeled into progressive initiatives that will benefit the majority of our people. Governance issues need reform. Fiscal responsibility laws need to be enforced. And then now let me should I just continue or break? I noticed that.
No, sir. Please go ahead. Once you finish, then we can transition to Dr. Betty after you're done.
Okay. So I'll say a few words about foreign aid. As I said earlier, foreign aid and external debt have a lot in common in the sense that a lot of the debt that we have is coming from donors who give us both, they give us both grants and then loans at concessional levels. And so that's the relationship between the two. Now, some of the burning question is, why do donors give foreign aid in the first place? And has foreign aid been effective? What are the factors that affect aid effectiveness? And there we'll see that many factors come into play. The goals of aid organizations, the recipients, the incentives for the recipient and conditionalities, and then the donor objectives. If we're not doing much, achieving much with aid, then what are the new approaches that we can think of? Is the problem aid, or is it just the way it is administered? Of course, if we look at the broad objectives that are given for aid, the donors usually try to appeal to altruistic reasons, natural disasters relief, giving aid for economic development, incentivizing political reform, and building new institutions. So ostensibly, very altruistic reasons, but there are also self-interested reasons which drive donors to give aid. So those are not necessarily altruistic, sometimes for military and strategic reasons. Media coverage, they're usually looking for accolades in terms of what aid has achieved for donors. And then the recipients will tell you that they want to use aid for the resource gap. But in practice, a lot of our governments in power see aid as an opportunity for siphoning public resources or corruption. So earlier I said that the whole idea of aid arose out of a perception, or at least at the time, the insight that aid will plug a resource gap between investment and savings, and then imports and exports. And a lot of work has been done on the impact of aid. Does it actually increase investment? If it doesn't increase investment, what is the reason? Some have found that it actually does increase consumption, not investment, which kind of throws into question the whole logic that was used to justify aid. But there was a study that covered 88 countries by a guy called Easterly. Easterly used to be a World Bank economist who left the World Bank out of frustration because he couldn't agree with many of their programs. And he did a study and found out that only 6 out of 88 countries passed the test of aid contributing to investment. And then there are other findings that say, for example, that yes, aid can support growth, but it does not, growth does not only depend on physical capital, but also technology, human capital, and institutions. And therefore, if you invest in technology, human capital, institutions, it is as equally important as investing in physical capital, like building roads, railways, etc. In fact, a lot of research money and effort has been put into trying to answer the question as to whether there's a positive relationship between growth and aid. And you can see from this diagram here that actually what we see on the horizontal axis, we have aid as a percentage of GDP. So in other words, that's the amount of aid a country receives. And then juxtaposed against percentage growth in GDP per capita. And we actually find that the relationship is mildly negative, which actually throws into question the whole notion that aid can increase investment. So the current finding, which seems to be making the rounds in the donor circles, is that aid has a positive impact on growth in developing countries with good fiscal, monetary, and trade policies, but has little effect in the presence of poor policies. So aid will only work if you have good policies, good fiscal, monetary, and trade policies, but it wouldn't work if your policy framework is already weak. And so a lot of aid is being designed around those concepts of institutional development, capacity building, and so forth, instead of directly putting aid money into physical infrastructure. Okay, this is just that the previous diagram presented another way. So today we have, you can divide the thinking into 2 blocks. We have the optimists and then the skeptics. The optimists, like Jeffrey Sachs, will say that the reason why poverty still continues to persist is because of factors other than capacity. And in fact, that aid might be too little. It's not enough to make a difference. I think Jeffrey Sachs has talked about countries that or they found that there's a lot of poverty in countries that are landlocked with low agricultural productivity and diseases. And in these kinds of situations, if enough foreign aid is put in, it will resolve or help resolve these problems. But many countries are not keeping to their aid commitments and are spending much less than the target of 0.7% of GDP. As a matter of fact, about 400 billion on military spending is taking place compared to 5 billion aid to Africa. So the case that the optimists make is that the aid can still be valuable, but there's too little aid being given, and therefore it is not making a difference. Okay, so the recent thinking is that there is now a strong body of evidence that aid does boost growth when countries have reasonable economic policies. A lot of aid is now being structured around policy making and policy making and capacity building, which actually is those are the intervening variables between aid and investment. And so if you don't have those intervening variables effective, then your aid will have no effect whatsoever. If you look at some of the work that has been done by the US under the Millennium Challenge, it is based on the fact that you get more if your country performance indicators are positive and in the right direction. So the bulk of aid is now being designed with this thinking in mind. The jury is, of course, still out. Whether we don't know whether we are actually going to achieve these results that are being touted. So the question still arises, if number one, we started by saying that aid supports investment and growth. And then over time we said, no, that's not quite true. Provided we give it in large numbers and provided that there is a capacity on the ground, there is institutional support, there is good policies in place, aid can make a difference. Again, new policies or aid initiatives are being structured around those ideas. We still don't know the definitive answer to that. The jury is still out. So then the last point I want to address is, if we cannot make a definitive statement on aid and growth, we cannot make a definitive statement on aid versus aid as being the success of aid being dependent on capacity and institutional structures and policy and so forth. Then is the problem the aid or how it is administered? There are a lot of criticisms have been made against the way aid is structured. Some of it include ideas like basically saying that the donors don't have a lot of, they don't have incentives to set targets in terms of growth rates, because growth rates really, to get a handle on growth rates, you're looking at the long term, and aid donors want immediate results. So they choose observable variables that can give them, like a winnable story. Everybody is calculating their support in terms of how much disbursement that they were able to make. A World Bank publication looked at 10 things, 10 things you never knew about World Bank. Advertised 10 accomplishments of the World Bank, and all 10 involved volumes of assistance for different purposes, and not the actual outcome. So the question is, how can donors actually recalibrate their aid to ensure that they are measuring what needs to be measured, accounting for how money is spent, or imposing conditions on loans before they are granted, what so-called conditionalities. We haven't really found a good way of making this happen. One, measuring aid properly, and then two, making sure that the conditions associated with the aid are being performed by the recipients. In practice, conditionalities usually deal with budget, keeping budget deficits down, non-interference in market pricing, privatization, trade openness. I think that it has been said that there are some success stories, and some of them are given here: Mauritius, Thailand, Peru, and therefore presumably aid works under certain conditions, and some of the success stories are designed to support that. But what happens to countries that fail to grow? Unfortunately, there's not much punishment when countries do not follow the conditionalities. For example, after 15 adjustment loans, Zambia had inflation rate over 40%, almost over the entire period of the adjustment loan. So there's really no punishment associated with inability to use aid resources. Okay, these are some more illustrations of, I think time is running, so I won't go into all that. Illustrations of the failure of aid. More success stories. So to summarize, there is still very little robust evidence in support of the assumptions of the two-gap model. Aid does not seem to fuel investment, as we have documented. Investment in aid, the recipient countries do not seem to fuel growth. So it's neither fueling investment or growth. Is aid the problem, or is the way aid works is done? That is the problem. Is aid ineffective because of inherent weaknesses in one or more of these or the various links in the chain? Can these be fixed? The debate continues, and I'm sure that it will continue for a very long time. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you very much for the detailed presentation. Now, Dr. Mensah, if you don't mind, ending the slideshow, then we can pass it on to our next presenter. Okay, great. Thank you. So, Dr. Bright Atsu-Agbeti, it's our next presenter. Are you ready? Do you have a presentation to share, Dr. Agbeti? Hello, Brother Bright? You're muted. Hello? Okay, there he is.
He's muted.
Yes, now he's unmuted. Brother Bright, are you there? You ready?
Yeah, hello.
Oh, yes, hello. Yes, let me ask you, do you have a presentation there?
Oh, okay, I don't have a slide.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure you be able to present. All right, so you're our second presenter, and you have the floor, so please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn on my video. I don't know if that will help.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm in afternoon, sorry. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. All right, okay. So I'll be a bit biased or partial in terms of my presentation because I would like to actually speak more on the aspects of youth. As a youth activist myself, we're talking about the economy of Ghana and how it actually affects us in general. But I want to take it from the perspective of the Ghanaian youth. I mean, how does our economy affect us in our daily lives? how does it affect us in our businesses, the job markets, accommodation, rent, and what have you. So I would like you to permit me to be a bit biased or partial when it comes to this topic, especially in regards to the youth.
No, actually, that's what we like. That's what we want. Bring it close to home.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. All right, so basically, there are myriad of issues that Ghanaian youth face, especially when it comes to the economy. We have a system working, but most often the youth we feel like we are left out or we are being left out, where the older generation are determining the pace of whatever is going to happen, and to the extent of taking money or borrowing money that we have to pay. I mean, by the time that we have to pay that money, those monies, they are gone. But, we have to pay it, and then we have to our kids also have to come and pay it. But we mostly don't have, the opportunity to contribute to, how those monies are supposed to be spent, and even what sort of channel that it could go through. And that is a bit problematic. So now I want to look at first, job is very important in our country, or as a youth. I mean, if you are not employed, you are surely going to get frustrated. So job is very, very important, very basic and very fundamental. So in Ghana, how possible it is, how easy it is for someone who is just done with first degree or diploma or HND to get employment. And even after getting the employment, how possible it is to get an employment that actually pays you well, that you can even reasonably be comfortable a bit to even think of raising a family. That is a critical problem. That is a very, very huge problem. And there is a huge gap. Over the years, we have paid lip service to it, in the sense that, successive governments may have brought up certain initiatives or projects. And when those projects come, they tend to attribute or add certain number of people in the media. So they could claim that, okay, we've been able to provide 100,000 jobs for the youth, or we've been able to provide 1 million jobs. But in reality, I was surprised to find out the last time that when it comes to the planting for food and jobs, the government actually, implemented over the past 4 years, and how I was surprised how the calculation was done as to the number of people that the government claims to have employed. So this is what happens. So when you look at their data, they are saying that someone who is already a farmer or someone who owns a farm and has been farming over the years, the moment you have been able to apply for fertilizer, a subsidized fertilizer or seedling, it means that they have given you a job. I mean, that is very, very funny, and I mean, it's untenable. The moment that you have been farming for a long time, but the moment that you have applied for maybe a bag of fertilizer and they have given you not even free at a subsidized fee, then it means that in the data of government, they have given you job, and they talk about it. You are included in the over 100,000 numbers that they are providing. So the question really is, I mean, was that really the case? Were you given job? And the answer is no. Simple no. You are not given job. You're not being provided for. So one critical thing, and one critical thing that affects the youth when it comes to the economy has to do with jobs. In the first place, even the little jobs, the few that are available, are not good paying ones. Why would Ghanaian youth be passionate about applying for US visa lottery and will even invest in trying to travel, than even staying in Ghana? Why would we do that? Because elsewhere, they are treated fairly more than when it comes here. I mean, someone works for a whole month and gets paid 700 Ghana cedis. I don't know for the conversion. 700 Ghana cedis is less than what's the name? It's less maybe around $150 or so. I don't know. Yeah, 700 cedis for a month. And out of that money, the person is supposed to take transportation for the over 20 days that he's going to work. The person is supposed to, feed. The person is supposed to rent, and rent, especially in Accra and some big cities, are very, very expensive. And out of that money, the person is supposed to raise family and save. So, I mean, it's increasingly frustrating for someone or someone who is starting life, who has just completed school and is trying to make ends meet, to actually go through that and actually have a peaceful mind to even think of doing something. So in that sense, how does a person being a member or a citizen of Ghana, being a member or citizen, a component of the economy of Ghana, how does a person feel involved or feel belong to? I mean, it doesn't appear that there is anything like that, because clearly, and the other case is that, within this week, later parts of this week, there some youths in a project, I think it's called Youth in Afforestation Project, were in the news that they have worked, some of them have worked for 5 months, over 5 months, some over 4 months, some over 3 months, and they are being paid, I think, a little over 700 cedis a month. And for the past 4 months or 3 months, they have not been paid, but they have been going to work daily. They have been going to work daily. So there is a huge gap between, the whole sense of employment when it comes to the youth. And see, there has always been a notion created about the youth not being ready for the jobs or for the job market. But it's not entirely true, because there are so many people who are qualified. There are so many people who have gone through their studies, who have acquired the skills. And because over the years, more people are may not, be in a technical field or to the line of technicality, where we talk about maybe IT, artificial intelligence, and what have you, that may actually be, easier for them to get job. Maybe some people they did accountancy in school and what have you, and with their qualification and whatever they have, whatever skills they have, it's still difficult for them to actually get anything meaningful out of it. And this is frustrating. When you come to Ghana now, most of the youths are turning into fraudsters. I don't know if you know of it, but most of them, I mean, I remember when they were swearing in Joe Biden, some of them were like, they are US citizens by VPN, meaning that they are in Ghana, but they have homes in the US through whatever, fraudulent schemes they are using. And it's increasingly scary, because it's the kind of people we are raising, the kind of people we are bringing up now. And if that continues, I don't know how sustainable it can be for our nation as a whole, where you don't have people working actively, but they are depending on illegal means or illegal sources of their finances. I don't know how our country can benefit from it, and it's a sorry state in the first place. So when it comes to employment, when it comes to jobs, I mean, I think we are not doing much. We are not doing much. We are doing less than what we are supposed to be doing, especially when it comes to remunerations, when it comes to payments of people who work. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. And now, one may think of, so if government or private sector may find it difficult in employing you, I mean, why don't you employ yourself? Why don't you have set up your own company or something? Now, it is becoming difficult. It is becoming difficult in finding out or even ascertaining if we truly have the enabling environment that one needs to have to actually operate freely. Okay, it's increasingly becoming very, very difficult to attain that enabling environment, where we talk about in Ghana, everything is about cutting corners. If you don't have the connections, if you don't have the someone who knows you, it's not now about you knowing someone, but you need to know someone, and the person has to know you in return. Otherwise, I mean, you may not be able to do anything of that sort. So when it comes to jobs, employment, and when it comes to the youth, I think that we are not doing much, and it is very scary looking at, you know, the future prospects of whatever that this situation is bringing up. Now, you know, we always have the notion or the view that the youth are the leaders or the future leaders of the nation or the owners of the nation, because I mean, definitely they are going to grow and be like most of you, I mean, without gray hair, beards and hairs, and, you know, want to be on retirement or what have you. But if this is the system that is going to continue growing us, what sort of retirements are we thinking of? And what sort of growth are we talking about? I mean, it's scary. When I think of it, I mean, it is. I get scared a lot. I get scared a lot about what exactly is happening, you know, to my colleague youth and the system that our country is creating for us. And it seems that they don't have a problem with it, and it's getting very, very scary. Another one frustrating thing that you know, the youth face when it comes to the economy has to do with accommodation and rent. Now, come to think of it, there is high demand for accommodation or rent in the big cities, and I have always been of the view that it has to do with a thinking problem. So I remember at a forum where I've spoken and I have indicated that. So we look at the developed countries and our leaders go there and they enjoy their train system, their other means of transportation. But when it comes to Ghana, it looks like it is impossible for them to do anything of that sort. A train can take me from Volta region, maybe when I live in the southern part of Volta and I work in Accra, okay, within an hour or less, when I stay in Volta, I could get to work in Accra when there is a working train system. So I could stay in my village and work in Accra comfortably. And I will not have any, you know, worry of I need to rent in Accra to get closer to work. Because mind you, when you wake up in Accra and you are going to work in another part of Accra, you may end up spending 2 to 3 hours in traffic alone. So, I mean, when we have a working train, working transportation, other means of transportation, where nobody needs to be congested in a city or in Accra specifically, or the big cities to work, they can be in their villages and they can always find possible means and easy means and cheaper means of coming to work. It will reduce the tension on accommodation and rent. Right now, rent is hot cake, accommodation is hot cake. And I mean, the moment you don't get it, you are unstable. I mean, the moment you don't get a roof over your head, you are unstable. And we have laws in Ghana actually, and then the rent control law actually, you know, stipulated that they shouldn't take more than 6 months of rent. But trust me, when you don't have more than 2 years or up to 2 years, at least 2 years, no one is going to give you anything. They won't give you anything. And the law is there staring at all of us. It is there as a law. So imagine someone, a fresh graduate, who is trying to make, you know, means or living out of whatever meager salary he's trying to get now. Or take it for instance, when you are out of school, there is a compulsory national service you need to do. And that national service, as of now, they are paying 559 Ghana cedis, and you live in Accra, you need to rent, you need to take transportation and what have you. At the end of the day, you are not only, you know, saving nothing, but you may end up, you need to actually look for other means of even supporting, you know, yourself when it comes to that. So we have huge issues when it comes to rent and accommodation that we strongly feel that, I strongly feel that they are issues that when our leaders take us serious and, you know, we decide that, okay, this should be sorted out. This should have been long time ago. And there are not things that we need to be rehearsing every time before anything is done about it. All right. So also, I want to look at the kind of support system we have for small scale businesses, small to medium scale businesses. All right. So when you are a young entrepreneur, that you actually establish and pay taxes to help grow the economy, there are little helps that you could actually get when it comes to financing. So if you don't have angel financiers who can actually, help you with not so much of condition, you go to the bank with nothing, empty pockets or empty property. Definitely, I mean, they are not even going to smile at you. If they smile at you, they have done you so much. They will not mind you. Okay, so it always boils down to that sort of environment that we are not creating for ourselves, that sort of environment that we are not creating for the youth, that sort of environment that we are not creating to make sure that the country gets to benefit from the taxes that when these businesses or enterprises are set up, what the country can get from it. Okay, so I mean, those are the problems you have. Those are the prevailing problems, and we want to look at, what is being done about it, and what must we do about it? What should be done about it? So so that it's not a case of we speaking about rehearsing the problems every time and then talking about the fact that, okay, we have this problem, we have this problem. Well, we have the problem, all right. We have stated the problems, all right. We want to identify what are the things that, are being done about the problems that we have identified. And what must we do about it? What should be the way forward? What progressive things can we do that in the next 10 years, we can say that our youth can be comfortable, that they will think of Ghana first, even in the face of US visa, that they can think of Ghana first when someone gives them free visa or opportunity to travel to Canada to work, that they can say that, oh, I will stay in my country and I will work in my country because it is safe, it is worth it, and I'm growing my country or my economy. Okay, so like I've stated earlier, it appears that successive governments, mostly keep paying lip service to it, because when you go to the media, it appears that they always have a propaganda emotion that they are doing a lot about it. You listen to the figures of the so-called, people that have been employed, and you try to find out, where from these people and what sort of work have they been employed to do? What sort of money are they being paid? Then you have a problem there. So what must we do about it? What should be our role? What must we do about it to actually make sure that the youth are in a comfortable or a position in a way that they can contribute to the economy of Ghana, that the economy of Ghana can positively affect them, that they can benefit in the first place before Ghana or the nation as a whole will be expecting, help or expecting their taxes from them. What must we do? So what we need to definitely create an enabling environment. We should look at the minimum wage that we currently have, because there's nothing to write home about. We should look at the salary structure that we have for youth. We should look at the kind of work that they do. People must be paid, according to their skills and their works. I mean, someone who is skillful doing the same thing, in reference to a project or initiative that started, I think, last 4 years, called the Nation Builders Corps, where I know people who do the same work as the permanent staff are doing, or even are giving extra works, but are being paid paltry 700 cedis, whilst the other permanent staff with the same qualification are paid, not normal or regular salary. I mean, it is unfair. It's unfair to be doing the same work or even be working more than one party. Yet at the end of the day, I mean, you get nothing out of it. And the person that you work more than is actually even enjoying more than you. There is no motivation in you committing your energy to your country. there is no motivation in doing that. You definitely, will have to think twice before you actually even give your all to your nation. And especially when people work for months, 5 months, 6 months, and you don't get paid. I shudder to think what sort of expectation the managers or the people in charge of those facilities are having on the workers. If it is expected that every morning they should keep borrowing money to actually take transportation to work, keep borrowing money to be buying food every day at work, keep borrowing money to pay rent or what have you. And those people have the same mind to actually work. And mind you, the workforce of our nation is the youth.
Yeah.
We are the workforce of a nation.
Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off, Achu, but let me ask you, because this is something that I don't want to escape my mind. As far as you know, do we have a system for doing salary reviews against the cost of living, for example? As far as you know.
As far as I know, there is no serious system in place that actually does that when it has to do with salary reviewing. Because I mean, you look at the inflation rate, you look at the cost of living, and you look at the salary adjustment, it doesn't match.
Way off. I see. So yourself and many of your colleagues, your mates at the university, do you have part-time job, part-time work? Is it easy to come by?
Well, it largely depends on, someone will say your wildness will be your living. So it largely depends on, how you put yourself. Because I, for one, whilst I was in the university, looking at things, I had to pick up a part-time job in teaching at a private senior high school and, doing other stuff. And I mean, that actually, helps me a lot. It actually helped me through it. But not so much.
Was this something that many people could get?
It's not common. It's not common.
I see.
Never common. I had so many of my friends who wanted the same opportunity, always asking around, trying to look for the same opportunity, but they don't have it. Unlike other countries where there could be structured works where even as you are in school, you can be doing and be supporting yourself. We don't have the same thing here.
I see. Okay.
Our system
I
doesn't
think maybe we can go to question and answer session. We were having difficulties earlier having our moderator, or I should say prime moderator on. Brother Daniel substituted very nicely, and we are very grateful for that. But I think our moderator is on now. So Brother Dan, I'm sure you like to hand over to her and perhaps introduce her actually and hand over to her.
Yes, so Sister Phyllis Datsaborn is our regular moderator, and here she is. So I'll hand over to her.
Hello, everybody, and I apologize for the difficulties I had in getting on, and I'm glad that I was able to catch the tail end of the session. Welcome everybody who has been here already. And so we'll open it up, as Brother Kofi was saying, and Brother Dan, we'll open it up for questions, answers, and contributions, comments. And so anybody who has a question can put it in the Q&A. And I believe Brother Kofi you are queuing the session, right?
I'll queue them.
Please,
Dan?
thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Dan.
Okay, so do we have anybody at the moment who has their question ready?
And the questions could be directed to the first speaker, Dr. Mensah, or to Achu.
Yeah, I have one.
Brother Kwesi has his hand up, and after that, Brother Kwame.
Short question. Dr. Mensah, is he here?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Okay. You talked about the aid and the grant and all of that, but you didn't tell us. I don't remember you telling us how much in aid we get per year, because for a political party like ours, if we should come in, do we have some money immediately that we can use to do some, to take some of these, to tackle some of these things? Does Ghana have any set aside, like some fund that we can use that is sitting there for any government that comes in. Because we hear Akufo-Addo talking about Ghana without aid and all of these things. I don't see how feasible that is, by your presentation. So give us a little insight as to whether or not Ghana has some savings or not, in terms of the aids and the grants that we receive, if you have that information.
Okay, Dr. Mensah, you're muted, so please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Dr. Mensah, are you there?
Okay, that's it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, unfortunately, I mean, it will take me a while to get my hands on the data, but the reality is that we have very little what they call fiscal space. In other words, the resources, we don't have resources sitting over there that are ready to be put into use. That is why we borrow so much. And in fact, the country is living from hand to mouth. I don't think there are resources sitting there that an incoming government would say, okay, let me put my hands on this pool of money and use it for job creation, health or education or any of those things. So you will have to find ways and means of generating additional or new resources. Otherwise, then the only resort is to borrowing, which is what we seem to be doing.
Can we dip into our sovereign fund?
We do have, okay, yes, from the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, we do have what we call a heritage fund, which is a portion of the petroleum revenues which are saved and invested for future generations. And we can have access to that money by going to Parliament and seeking an amendment to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act that will release that money. But it's a very, earlier on when the NPP came to power, there were suggestions that they might dip into the Heritage Fund. But the public resistance was very high, so they couldn't really touch the Heritage Fund. They decided to leave the Heritage Fund alone. So yes, that resource is there. But as to whether you can access it without a public furor, it's another thing. The last attempt was a failure because the people were not ready to support that.
If you allow me, I can do all the talking, but somebody else can.
Is there a follow-up?
Yeah, well, Brother Kwame had his hand up.
First and foremost, I was trying to make an appeal. I don't know if Dr. Bright has been able to complete his presentation, but other than that, time is against us anyway. I think that I really want to just not to ask questions, or I just want to give a broad comment. First, Dr. Mensah, his presentation has been excellent. It's exposed us into what we are all about anyway. It's preaching to us what have been going on over the years. And it's getting worse. I have done my own research for this program, just about Ghana's debt, public, foreign, and all that. It's getting worse. And Dr. Mensah has exposed it very well for us to understand. The other point I want to make is about the intervention from Bright. I think there's no future if things continue this way for our young people who are tomorrow's leaders or must be tomorrow's leaders. Because like he's saying, every youth wants to go overseas right now. Everybody wants to travel. Why? Because there's no foundation for them for tomorrow. And I think that we should refrain from asking questions about what are we going to do? I think there is a blueprint, there is a foundation, the 7th year development program that Dr. Nkrumah put in place. We need to begin to look at that. We need to begin to evaluate that and see how we can incorporate modern approaches Other than that, it's not. Look, I have been in Europe for over 32 years, and I'm very eager to come home. But every day I ask myself questions, just like others have done. The economy or the economic impact of debt on our country. I'm happy Dr. Mensah have really, he didn't attack it in terms of, oh, all those who give us aid and all that, but he just broadened his understanding of the whole system. It's the aid and the loan that we take, everything works against us. I'll be honest with you. I have a documentary by one Australian journalist, John Pilger, about foreign aid, foreign debt. And he specifically targeted Philippines under Ferdinand Marcos. If you sit down for an hour and a half and look at that documentary, I think our approach, this organization approach, either it takes us 10, 15 years to take power or not, must be different. I'm not interested in foreign debt. I'm not interested in sovereign debt. I'm not interested in selling Ghana cheap. But the basic thing we need to do is to begin to protect our resources. Is very important. We need to begin to protect our resources. That is why this afternoon's meeting that Yen is attending is very laudable. But I think that this organization should begin to develop its own approach to the economy of this country and Ghana's development. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
This is Kwe. May I say something?
Dr. Kwe,
Yeah.
we
Go
had
ahead.
there were a couple of hands raised. So
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
So
Hillary,
I'll take my turn.
okay, thank you. Well, we have
how many
Hillary
do we
Adongo.
have waiting?
We have Hillary Adongo, then Eugene Asola, then Dr. Kwe.
Okay.
So, Brother Hillary, please go ahead. You're muted, Brother Hillary. You're muted. Okay. Let's move on to Brother Asola. We can come back to Brother Hillary later. So, Brother Asola, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
That's Hillary. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hillary. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So good afternoon once again to everyone. Greetings from Ghana. I want to also thank Dr. Mensah and also Bright for the presentations that they have made. I have one question for Dr. Mensah and then also to make a contribution to the input that Bright has made. My question has to do with the issue of the multinationals and their activities in our country. Now we understand that many of the issues of capital flight, for instance, has to do with the activities of foreign organizations in our country. Maybe I would like to hear something about that, because I have also read that for every dollar of aid that comes into Africa, for instance, some amount of dollars, even more, leaves. So that if we are comparing the issue of aid and development, should we continue to receive aid? Because it looks like aid is just like a bait for taking more out of Africa. So that's the question for Dr. Mensah. But just to add to what Bright has said, it is especially for young people in Ghana, that the issue of is like someone says, like getting lion's milk. You must know somebody in this country before lion's milk. You know, getting a job in Ghana has become more like you must certainly know somebody. And I think that
they know that government does not employ up to 1 million people in the country. Yet more than 70% or so of the income that government makes is spent on salaries. It is not surprising that many of us who visit the ministries know that there is virtually nothing that happens in these areas. And it is because government is constrained, and the little that it gets, it spends that on paying these people. So I think that all these things point to the fact that everything is ripe for us to begin to mobilize, to move into a point where we can be able to bring back hope for young people in this country, because the figures are not good. How can government employ all these nurses that have been demonstrated, all these teachers that have been demonstrated? It is practically not possible. And it is because of the way we are running our economy. So I think that it is important for us, especially as young people, myself and Bright and all the other young people, to begin to see how we can be able to mobilize and create. I was just looking at the numbers of people who are on this meeting. We don't seem to have any good number today. And I am wondering where many of our young people are, that we are not engaged in the discussions. So how do we bring about that kind of change? But I think that all these things just point to the fact that it's time for us to begin to organize and to see how we can use PAG as that vehicle to bring about the change that is needed. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Brother Asola, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you so much. I want to thank Dr. Mensah for your presentation and Brother Bright. How bereft has economics without tears produced impractical graduates? I want a little bit of information, if you would, Dr. Mensah. You said there's a body of evidence that aid boosts growth when countries have reasonable economic policies. In terms of accountability and conditionalities, do we have anything, or can we, or are we able to, in terms of when these incentives are being, or when the policies are being crafted, to hold personnel who are directly involved, not to be vindictive, but if they make errors, like elsewhere in the countries, they have to pay back with using whatever, I don't know, whatever means they can, or if they embezzled or whatever may have gone wrong in terms of awarding contract to people who just spend the money, or is there a way that a government will be able to directly, in terms of the personnel, recover all these losses? Because most of these monies that come in the foreign aid do not actually go to where they are supposed to. So that's my question.
Okay.
Dr. Mensah, can you go ahead?
Okay, I think I have two questions. One is about the proposition that, for every dollar of aid that we get, a certain multiple leaves the country, multiple of that leaves the country. And I think that is ultimately an empirical question. And I think that we can actually begin to get a handle on these propositions through research. There's no doubt in my mind that there is some aid that is designed to bring a little in and take a lot out of our country. And that is the case, for example, with what they call tide aid, where a country comes, they give you a concessional loan, and then that concessional loan says that you have to engage their own contractors or engineers and so forth. And in the case of the Chinese, it even forces you to employ them as laborers. They bring their workforce. So I think we need a situation where we are increasingly more and more discerning in what we want to properly call aid. Aid that's not tied, that is not tied, aid that is allows our own capacity to develop. And that is a question of leadership, unfortunately, it's very difficult for us to address these issues because of the fact now there's some of it ties into the second question. Because of the fact that all the people who are involved in the cycle of aid have a vested interest in the existing system. I mean, let's take a donor country. The donor country is interested in proclaiming to the world that they are altruistic, or they might have military and economic objectives. So they are there. Then you come to Ghana, the politicians who are receiving the aid, they want to be able to receive the aid and be able to put maybe one structure somewhere in Accra or some rural area to demonstrate to their constituents that they are doing something for the country, but they're just exploiting the aid. And then we come to the people who actually implement the aid programs, the civil servants. The civil servants are getting study leaves, they are getting their four-wheel drive vehicles from these aid projects, they are traveling abroad, so they have a vested interest in the system. And then we have consultants in Ghana who are analyzing projects, and they also have a vested interest in this. So it's a big gravy train where everybody involved has a vested interest in the system. That's why I think the president's Ghana Without Aid, Beyond Aid, I think was a very disappointing document, because it did not really address all these vested interests and how we can untangle them and make aid actually work for us. And because of the vested interest, you can see that it's very difficult for the state to recover losses from those who are involved in the administration of aid, because they are all part of the gravy train. The investigators are all part of it.
Yes.
So we need a government that would, first of all, address this problem of vested interests so that our aid is clean and it's not being stolen from so many different angles. I have this feeling that about 50% of our resources, including what we get from aid, is actually stolen. And the only way the problem can be addressed is to have a program or a government that addresses the root of the problem, which is to stop the thievery.
Yeah.
That is very interesting in terms of what is happening.
So we have Brother Quay, then Dr. Tempogre, then we can come back to Brother Kwame Okulu. So Dr. Quay, please go ahead.
Okay. Thanks to the presenters. That was good. So before I get started, I want to refer you guys to a website. The website is afokoskin.com, AFOKO skin.com. That's my daughter's website. She makes and sells shea butter products. She makes and sells shea butter products. This is an opportunity for us. It will take a few investors to invest in the youth in the North. We can create markets across Africa, into Europe and Asia and anywhere. And our kids who go and fight to kill themselves in the Mediterranean to go and be laborers in Europe, we will create, since we started doing this, I'm always thinking of solutions that we can come up with. When I hear talks like this, my whole body is itching to come up with solutions for, and this is only one of the things that I have thought of, that we could create a factory in the North to create products like this, sell across Africa, sell in the Middle East and in Asia, Europe. So, that's one. The other thing is, earlier on today, I got a video. I don't remember whether it came from the PAG group or whether it came from my classmates, but there was a video about a teacher who teaches science, and she was talking about the science competition, how Ghanaian students went to Europe somewhere and won, but they couldn't do the hands-on part of it because they didn't know.
Daniel sent it.
Oh, you sent it? Okay. So, okay. I think that our educational system has failed us. The chew, pour, pass, and forget. We need to we need to do away with that. From the time my kids growing up in America were in kindergarten, they always had crafts. They had projects to do. It doesn't happen in Ghana. When I was in Form 1, I won like Form Prize, they call it. I got a book, hundreds of things a boy can make. It's a craft book. The only thing I could make was paper airplanes. You know, we don't have a system that gives hands-on education to people. So as if we continue the way we're going, we will always go and borrow money. But we could easily create an environment where we are succeeding in creating things and selling to the world. Another thing that came up was rent in Accra. I think one of the things we should consider doing is a light rail system for Accra and all the big cities, so that people don't have to live in Accra and pay exorbitant rents. Someone can even live in Koko and take the train to Accra. It'll take what, maybe an hour? I mean, right now, an hour is what someone drives from Lungwa to Accra. So if, you know, these are things that if we tell Ghanaians we want to dip into your sovereign fund to make it easy for someone who is living in Nkoko to come to Accra and work and go back and not have to pay the exorbitant rent. Look, people, it depends on how we frame the problem and how we're going to use the money. So I don't want to talk too much, but as you know, the speakers were talking, I was making notes. And I think what I would recommend from the speakers is the things that they've talked about, if they can come up with 1 or 2 suggestions for solutions, because they've thought about these things and they've made a presentation. They can come up with 1 or 2 solutions towards the things they've talked about. Then hopefully we are recording them, and these are the things that we will revisit. And I bet you when we come to power, we will stay in power for 50 years, if not more, because we will transform Ghana. We will blow the minds of Ghanaians with little things like this. So I have more things that I wrote down, but I'll move on. Oh, impractical graduates. Someone said that, and you know that goes back to the education stuff. I'll stop here. But this is what I'm thinking of now. Thank you.
Dr. Tumpugre is next.
I will start with the confession. As somebody of Catholic background, we are taught to confess. I confess that I have been on this gravy train since 1997. And I'm still on it, but I cannot wait for the day that the train will crash.
Okay.
A number of statements have been made, which are correct, but let me be provocative. The problem, aid is a problem, but let's put that beside. But the biggest problem is our political economy. And that is what PAG has to grapple with. And I can tell you from experience that it is not an easy challenge. I've operated in the aid industry at various levels, from NGO sector to multilateralist agencies, worked for DFID, been advisor to the Ghanaian government, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's sickening. There have been occasions where I've shaken my head in total disbelief at what I'm seeing, but unfortunately I'm on the other side. Yeah, and I say, wow, we are in big trouble. We are in big trouble. But I've also looked at the side of the civil servants, the Ghanaians, and I know where they are coming from. When the stones are falling, you protect your head. When your child is crying at home, your primary concern is how you can find food for them. In 1979, when Nigeria placed an embargo on supplying oil to Ghana, during the June 4th uprising, the mantra then was, drink your oil. In 1982, Yen is on the line, we tried very much to try and confront what I call Ghana's political economy and the challenges that it imposes on anybody in leadership. We inherited a house, a 5-bedroom house, and we have constructed a 10-story skyscraper, and we can only have 8 to keep the skyscraper standing. Hillary was right. I did a political economic analysis of Ghana's education sector for DFID. 97% of budgetary allocation to education is on personal emoluments. There's hardly anything for capital investments. The question is, why is this the case? I would argue that the very reason we are in this case is the reason why PAG has to take this work far more seriously in terms of continuing Nkrumah's agenda. What do I mean? You know, we inherited a colonial economy. We haven't changed it. It's still cocoa, gold, et cetera, We have expanded a bureaucracy way beyond our own capacity to sustain it and develop and grow. In 1982, when we began a series of debates, and I suspect that one of the reasons why somebody like me was arrested was because we began a campaign to try and get ordinary Ghanaian citizens understand what it takes to restructure and reorient the Ghanaian economy out of aid. The huge sacrifices that are required cannot be borne until and unless you have mass support of the people of Ghana who are willing to endure the hardships. Because Rawlings was faced with a dilemma. He has no money. There's no money. Workers have to be paid. The only place who can come with a check is the IMF and the World Bank. And they have their conditions. So they then decided that they will use jargon, economic recovery program, all kinds of semantics, but the essence was the same. Massive layouts, et cetera, sale of government industries. You can imagine it, name all. You see, going forward, when I say the political economy, the political class in Ghana thrives on kickbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And 1% of it is not money. So it is not in the interest of the political class and the dominant political institutions to break away from this.
Yeah.
You make promises to constituents, where are you going to get the money from? They do not touch the pension fund, because when you touch worker savings, you're asking for a revolution. So the soft spot is international finance, and it is in their interest to make you as dependent as possible. I don't want to take too much time, but what I'm saying is that, you see, I thank the presentation on aid, but I think as a party information, we need to think critically and carefully. What will it take to cut our coat according to our cloth? What will it take? What sort of leadership do we want to cite the example that somebody like Thomas Sankara did in Burkina Faso? To make the people of Ghana understand that, wait a minute, we are running an oversized and overblown administrative architecture that needs to deliver services, but we must do so with the clear determination that our loyalty is to the majority of ordinary people. And therefore, what we put in place must make sure that social services benefit the majority of its citizens. Let me just stop here. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything that many of you are not familiar with, but I'm just saying that for PAG to go forward, we must confront the issue that has been dodged for many years. It was attempted in 1982. It cost some of us a lot, but we haven't given up. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you very much.
Brother Kwame Oklu next, and then after that, Brother Kwesi.
No, I think Nick have already said a lot about what I intend to do. But
Okay.
I'm very grateful to Nick, very, very grateful. The only thing elaboration I want to seek from Bright. Bright was talking about income structure in Ghana. I don't know how it is operating now, because in the past they have salary review committees, prices and incomes board. Those are areas or the structures that look at wages in terms of what wage increases or price increases impact on the people. I don't know what is going on. The other part I want to ask is that salary structures sometimes are negotiated at tables with trade unions, employers, and things. But I don't know. I don't know where my country is heading to. And he's made a very solid point, because if you give someone 700, which is £100 here, the person can't pay for anything, you know. So please, Nick have already elaborated this. This organization, we have to be serious. We need to. I don't want to repeat it. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much.
Let me just add a real life story. I've just looked at the year, and I think I'm still covered by my professional ethics that I can cite the particular example to show some of the challenges. I was part of the team that was advising the government of Ghana on the privatization of water. And together with the World Bank water team, we're sitting at Alisa Hotel. They had come with a program document, and they were busy jigging the finances, etc., etc., etc. I was watching and listening to them and say, wait a minute. So you people have already prepared the program document that the government of Ghana is going to sign to? Okay. We go to a meeting, senior Ghana government officials. They haven't even read the document. What do you do as a Ghanaian, as an advisor? What do you do? The people who have the responsibility to make sure that they defend the country's interests have not even taken the time to study critically the terms and conditions involved in it. And here's the point that has been made. Yes, many of them are interested in the cars, the etc. that are going there. That's what, because hey, that is what makes sense for them. I shake my head in disbelief. I say, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble in the sense that although I'm on the other side, my heart's with Ghana, and Ghana bleeds for this. You go and enter into an agreement that is clearly being manipulated to favor a particular private water company, because some of the World Bank people who were on it had links with the companies that were going to take over from the water. Yeah. So I think that normally I would not cite this example, but it's quite old. So time has moved on. So it's important for us to understand that the challenges that we face are not small. And we must think carefully and critically, but the direction that we should go to is our legitimacy, mobilization, and representation among the people, and our willingness to be clear and honest with them about the challenges that they face.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
So Brother Kwesi has to say.
All right, my last question before okay, this back to Dr. Sam Mensah. Okay, Doctor, we know in Ghana that our bureaucracy is so bloated to the point where, you know, there's no more air that we can take in. Can you give us a little insight as to how we can solve that problem? Because you said something about the aid that comes in, or somebody said it, that about so much percentage of that go into salaries for government employees who are basically, you know, using this money for their own ends, or, you know, all kinds of things. Will it be possible to set up an alternate administration and lay off most of these people, you know, economically, financially? Will it be possible? Because our salaries, the money is going to the wrong hands. People who have vested interest in some of these programs, they will definitely keep it going. So as a new country that comes in, how do we restructure our civil service department and all of these organizations that run the machinery of Ghana basically most of them are sitting on salaries for doing nothing. If you went to the Registrar General's office, you know what I'm talking about. If you go to even the post office, you know what I'm talking about. Police station, all of these places, some people are just hangers on who the government doesn't need. Will it be advisable to say, okay, we take a pen and we lay these people off because you are redundant? Somebody is doing a job that you are doing, that somebody else is doing. 4, 5 people are doing one job, but they are getting paid. So give us a little insight as to how, as an economist, you will advise us, if we come in, because I asked about whether or not we have a set aside money. And Achu was talking about employment for the youth. My desire here is that when we come in, we must be able to employ about 500,000 youth across the country, because we are talking about decentralization at the same time. Okay, so how do we go about all of that? If PAG comes in, will it be advisable, to tackle the employment issue or over-employment issue? Give us a little insight about that, please.
Okay. I think that the observation that we have a bloated civil service has been made for a very long time. And there have been many attempts by governments to reduce the size of the civil service. From, Achampon's time, Rawlings, the Fourth Republic, all the political parties they've been cautioned about the size of the civil service, but none of them has been able to do anything serious about it. And it is primarily for political reasons, because the civil service is a very powerful institution. If you take the formal employment side of the economy, more than half of the people in formal positions of employment are employed by government. And so I think governments fear the social consequences of doing a massive retrenchment of the civil service, simply because of the fact that they dominate the formal side of the economy. And so everybody has pronounced their policy on making the civil service more efficient, but nobody has been able to do anything about it. My solution is really to come up with policies that enable the economy to create productive jobs.
Yeah.
And not salary collecting jobs. Yeah. Productive jobs means that you are exploiting the resources of the economy to the fullest. You are adding value. You are using using the latest types of technology. People are actually adding value when they go into employment, and then slowly replace the bloated civil service or create alternative employment opportunities for the civil servants, so that we can shrink that number and increase the productive side of the economy. It's a challenge. I think that PAG actually needs some research to try and prioritize the sectors that can give us these kinds of productive activities that can absorb some of these public employees.
Right. Thank you for that.
Brother Nicholas has his hand up.
Just a quick intervention on that. Yes, very few governments have had the courage to address the issue of the civil service, but I would argue that the way it is framed, is causing that reaction. It immediately means that you are going to sack people. I think the fundamental issue is how can you deliver services more efficiently, and at what cost? There has been an attempt by the Local Government Service Act to try and move resources to the district assemblies. But the district assemblies themselves are essentially top down like the national government. They're just a replica of politics and government at the national level. I recall having at a meeting with Professor Jambafo, who was then at the NDPC. He said, look, the day that 60% of national resources are moved to the grassroots, that will be the day that nobody will want to be a minister in Ghana, because there will be nothing to take. Yeah, because there will be nothing to take. There will be no contracts to award. There has been a consistent attempt to promote fiscal decentralization. It has not worked, because as the last speaker presented, it is not in the interest of the political class. They cannot pay the money they borrow to run elections. They cannot pay their foot soldiers. They cannot do all the things if they want to transform. It just won't happen. They can talk and talk and talk about it. It's going to go nowhere. It's a survival interest. And nobody will willingly commit suicide.
Okay.
So as we engage in these things, we must understand that the challenges are extremely enormous. Yeah. And for me, the solutions lie less in trying to fix the economic model that we need to take on board, and more on having legitimacy, representation among the people, to the extent that we'll be able to implement the policies they want to implement. As long as you don't have that, you have a problem.
Okay, thank you so much. Then
Mr. Phyllis.
do we have any more questions?
Well,
I just wanted to say something to Achu. You said something about a fast rail system from the Volta region. Be assured that when we had our international conference in 2019 or 18, we had the foremost scientists for building this project, fast rail system, talk at our conference. So, Park has been talking about that. We've been discussing that, okay? So some of the youth, I think our administration, if we ever come into office, some of the things that you are talking about, we've also been talking about here for some time. And we hope we'll bring some, right. Just like that.
That's great to know.
Yeah, so, yeah, now I'm done.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so
Yes,
quickly,
I'm done.
Well, for me, to Dr. Mensah's presentation, I'm reading a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with that.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So it opened my eyes about how aid operates and what the ultimate goal of it is and all that from somebody who was on the inside. So just a recommendation, if anybody gets a chance to read it, I think it's a great book and it just really, really opened my eyes. So just want to pass that on.
Can you give the title again? So
yes, Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Can you please type it in the chat?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you.
all right. I think we have come to a point where we can wrap up. In the interest of time, I know some of our presenters might have other places to go as well. So I want to thank everybody for participating and making this session so interesting. There's a lot of work to be done. So at this time, I will pass the back to is our chairperson here?
No.
Close the meeting?
No, I don't think he was able to make it, so we can probably pass it to Dr. Roberts.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I think, Brother Kwesi, please give the vote of thanks.
Oh, somebody just posted that they weren't introduced also, Sam and Bright. We just come to a conclusion that they weren't introduced, and Phyllis, you were supposed to do that,
Yes, well, I can certainly do that because I wasn't sure whether anybody had a chance to do that or not. Yeah. But I can definitely do that at this time so we get to know a bit more about our presenters before we finish. Okay, so our first presenter was Dr. Sam Mensah. Dr. Mensah is a financial economist, investment banking consultant. He is founder and chief executive officer of is it SEM Capital?
SEM.
SEM Capital Advisors or SEM Capital Advisors, an investment advisory firm in Ghana. During 2006 and 2017, he served as technical advisor to 3 ministers of finance and led several key government financial transactions such as Ghana Eurobond issues and the privatization of Ghana Telecom. He has been at the forefront of financial sector development and has advised on key initiatives such as Financial Sector Strategic Plan and Venture Capital Trust Fund. He was also a founding member and executive secretary of the African Capital Markets Forum. Prior to his consulting career, he was assistant professor of finance at the University of Michigan. Dr. Mensah holds an MBA and PhD degrees in finance from the University of Toronto, an MA in economics from University of Ottawa, that's my university, an MA in economics, yes, from University of Ottawa, an MA political science from McMaster University, BA political science from University of Ghana, and is a certified management accountant. He recently completed a 5-year term as chairman of the Ghana Stock Exchange and is an adjunct lecturer in finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Mensah has published in high-level refereed academic journals such as Journal of Futures Market, Financial Review, and Public Finance Quarterly. So thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Mensah. We also have, just one second. We also had the pleasure of hearing from Mr. Bright Atsu Agbetsisi. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, sorry. Bright is a young, passionate individual who is very much ingrained in governance and development of Ghana. He's a product of the University of Ghana, Legon. He's a youth activist that fights for opportunities for the youth, a farmer, an event planner, and a host MC. Bright runs a mentorship program in the various senior high schools that aims at helping to shape the career path of the students. He also teaches in deprived communities in the Volta region every year on a voluntary basis. He also volunteers annually for Barcamp Ghana events and other community and youth-focused events, programs, and projects. He's a project management consultant with AIMers Africa and Chief Liaison Officer at the Festival Secretariat of Avenor Traditional Council. Having been a student leader in his days at University of Ghana, he has so much passion for shaping youth-centered policies and implementation. And I think that was quite evident in his presentation. So thank you very much, Mr. Agbetsisi.
All right. Thanks to all of you.
I guess we can all clap.
Yes, yes, we can all clap now.
All right, so I pass it over to Brother Kofi to close the meeting.
Actually, I think Brother Kwesi was going to do that.
Okay, all right. We want to thank Dr. Mensah and Mr. Bright Atsu Agbetsisi. You know, Park has been doing this since this our 10th Zoom presentation, and we intend to do it just about every time, every week or month until we get to our destination, and even beyond that. We are very inclusive of anybody who is interested in our ideology of Nkrumahism, okay, and how to reconstruct Ghana, at least to continue from where we left off. So it's a pleasure to us, and we also thank those of you who have always the time to come on board and share your experience with us. We don't discriminate. We don't think anybody who don't have a PhD is not good enough to come and talk to us. So those of you who spend your time to come over here, we are very interested. We are very thankful for you to come here and give us how you feel in the street from from the youth, from down here, that you have that experience. And we're getting quite a few people who come here and speak, from the heart to us. Now, that's not to say the PhDs and the doctors don't do that, but we also want to hear from the guys in the street, because you are the future, as you just said. And the elders here, we are also trying our best to, help in building something. So PAC is just now starting. And now you can go and tell people about what we do, by word of mouth, by any means necessary. We want to thank you again. And I hope that in future, when we need your services again, and we call on you, you'll have the time to come and do something or share some experience with us once again. So thank you very much. And we hope to see you again. And everybody on this forum today for the meeting, also thank you very much for waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going back to sleep and see if I can catch a little bit more.
Thank you. Okay.
So,
and Phyllis, if you allow me just half a minute, I'd like to take a bit from what Brother Kwesi just said and recognize Cynthia Herwitt, Professor Herwitt at Morehouse University. She has been with us since we started. She was actually with us in South Carolina when we went for the weekend retreat. And she was with us in Ghana as one of the speakers in our conference in 2018. So good to see you, Professor Herwitt. And
Thank you,
I think
Brother
we'll be calling on you one of these days to present on this program. So I'm sure in due course you become very familiar with our head moderator, Phyllis Datson-Bourne in Canada. So thank you, Achiu, for coming on such short notice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Thank you all.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
And I hope we see you all back next time on the next session. We will be sending you all the notices, the flyers when they are ready. We have a lot of other town hall sessions coming up, very interesting programs, and we would love to have you all back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good weekend. Rest of it. Yeah.